have not already, release more of those. And possibly, most important of all, if you know a friend or a family member or anybody who enjoys combat sports, especially boxing, please tell them about this show because I am sure they'd love it. So on this show, we sometimes do kind of a segment thing, little own spin-off shows called Unknown to Casuals. This is episode 5, and on Unknown to Casuals, we talk about 3 fighters at a time that you may or may not have heard of. More than likely, if you're a casual fan, you have not heard of these fighters. And the purpose of doing these little episodes is to be informative, to tell you about those great fighters, to expand your boxing world, so that you can enjoy more fights. Go back and check these guys out, even if they are retired. These guys from today's episode will be. Previously, we have done the first few on boxers that are still currently fighting, so you have a chance to catch them on undercards and so on and so forth. But on this episode, we're going to talk about fighters who fought in the early 2000s, kind of. So we're gonna kind of start off there. And the first fighter that we're going to talk about today is none other than Ricardo Mayorga, who was 32, 12, and 1, a Nicaraguan fighter famed for smoking cigarettes and cigars as a pro athlete, even routinely smoking during press conferences. Absolutely unreal. An entertainer through and through, whether you liked him or not. His trash talk seemed to know no bounds, once telling Oscar De La Hoya before their fight that he would drink his wife's breast milk. Just an absolute entertainer and a beast of a human being. Truly being a smoker, not living any sort of pro athlete's kind of life, even had some different things going on for him outside of the ring. That never stopped him from trying his best and performing at the highest level in many great contests. So as you could see, he did take losses, but these losses were because he fought the likes of Felix Trinidad, Oscar De La Hoya, Sugar Shane Mosley twice, and Miguel Cotto. He also had some good wins in his career when he shocked the world, being the first fighter to defeat the, at the time, undefeated Vernon Forrest. Came out strong, just stayed in Forrest's face, ate some shots. He defended best he could using some head movement, but ate some shots and had a press forward and do not give up sort of mentality, to not have this be as much a boxing match, but more a brawl if he could help it. He was successful in doing that, and he TKO'd Forrest. Now, they ran that fight directly back, and he won again, this time by majority decision. He also beat Fernando Vargas, which is a very good win. And yeah, Mayorga, definitely want to check him out if you've never heard of him. And the next fighter on our list, I'd almost guarantee you've never heard of. Even some more hardcore kind of boxing fans have not heard of this guy. So this is a real gem, even if you are really into boxing and know most of these names so far in these Unknown to Casuals episode. This man is Chris John, otherwise known as Johannes Christian. He was 48 1-3, an Indonesian fighter, and he holds the second longest reign of title defenses in boxing history for the featherweight division. That's right. You probably never heard of this man, but he has the second most title defenses in all history of boxing in the featherweight weight class. So he's famed for beating a prime Juan Manuel Marquez, who came off of a draw with Pacquiao. He also beat a 38-4 Saucedo, an undefeated 43-0 Tatakun. And, you know, the Tatakun fight, I think, it was one of these fights, and I believe it was that one, when he had to get up off the floor to come back and win, being dropped, I believe, in the first round even, or the second round in that fight, or one of these great fights. Otherwise known as the Dragon, truly, he has one of the most underrated careers in boxing for holding this kind of title reign that spanned almost a decade, and beating some great fighters, including Juan Manuel Marquez. Yet a lot of people don't know about him. That's why we do these episodes. And last, but certainly not least, kind of saving the best for last here, is Joe Calzaghe, who was 46-0, undefeated. He beat Jeff Lacey as a very good win, but then his last two fights of his career, back to back, he beat, ready for this, Bernard Hopkins and Roy Jones Jr. When he walked away from the sport in his prime undefeated, he was one of very few to ever do this, like Andre Ward, like certain people that just, he's like Floyd Mayweather. He is of a rare breed of fighters that walked away seemingly in his prime and undefeated, coming off his best two wins back to back. His dad was some sort of musician composer, and I want to say jazz, but his father was a musician, and then training him believed that you can use rhythm as a weapon. Joe Calzaghe, famed for, a lot of times throwing upwards of 1,000 punches, in a fight, which, if you don't know, is a very, very, very high number of punches, especially for that weight class, as he was up super welterweight or welterweight, as I remember. Even in the lower weight classes, throwing 1,000 punches a fight is very good. Although it's a little more normal down there, it's almost unheard of. If you watch this man's fights, he literally never stops letting his hands go. Ever, ever, ever. His gas tank was an absolute weapon, that's for sure. But his father used it believing that boxing could be like music, and making music that you go off of the rhythm. You're jab, 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 and then we're leading up to something, and now we're throwing in the hooks and whatnot. And he put this in Joe Calzaghe's head and fashioned himself an incredible fighter. And, Joe Calzaghe, with those wins, has a legit career. Now, he has a very strong following of fans that scream from the rooftops that he is one of the most underrated boxers in all time, and that he should be on some all-time top 10 lists even. And the kind of people that detract from this, his detractors would say that his career was not stacked enough, though those last wins, Bernard Hopkins and Roy Jones Jr., are as good as it can get, and to have them back to back is impressive. They'll tell you that before that, excluding kind of the Jeff Lacey win, that his career out of 46 fights isn't very strong. I kind of land in the middle because both arguments make sense. The latter half there a little more to me, but Joe Calzaghe, one thing is not debatable. You should know who he is, and that's why we put him on this episode. That's undebatable. Now, if he should be on top 10, all-time lists, I'll leave that for you to decide. But go watch this man fight. Also an entertainer. Good taunts and stuff during the fights while using, very high-level boxing IQ, and being a fan-friendly fighter, throwing 1,000 punches per fight sometimes. Until next time, though, loyal fight fans, it's been fun. I like doing these Unknown to Casuals episodes, and being as we're kind of in a slow week for boxing, I thought that we'd stick this one in there. And we'll be back to you soon with more content. Appreciate, as always, the new subscribers, all the thumbs ups that we get on these videos, and please, as always drop in the comments. I love talking to you guys, as long as we keep it respectful. We can always disagree with each other as well, but go ahead and drop in the comments what you think. And especially, as I've said many times before, for these Unknown to Casual episodes, if you guys have certain fighters, and keep in mind, they cannot be a Roy Jones Jr., a Mike Tyson, a Canelo, things like this. They have to be fighters that you would think that a casual fan has probably never heard of, and most people that don't watch boxing would have never heard of, but yet is great in their own right and worthy of being on these episodes. Drop them in the comments, and I would love to take it under consideration.